we fight? To gain what we cannot take with us? It's in our nature.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Assassin's Creed Syndicate 100% sync walkthrough. This is sequence 6, One Good Deed. So, as you can see, immediately we're chasing after this vehicle, and we have to take out the guy on the side. So you have a few choices here. Depending on how upgraded you are, you can ram them, you can jump across the roof and kick them out, or you can shoot the driver or the horse, depending on, once again, how you choose to play. I'm going to be using the roof strategy, but I will be the first to admit the amount of times I'll get out onto my roof and then my horse will have weird momentum and it'll stop me being able to jump across has happened a lot of times. You haven't seen any of those moments because I've edited them out, but it didn't mean they didn't happen. So, as much as I love getting onto the roof, I think it should give you a button press where you just jumped across and you didn't have to climb on the roof. Like, you can either climb on the roof and fight, or you can hold it maybe and jump across to the other one without it giving the player control. Because all it does, combined with the game's auto jump, is mean that you're going to fuck it up. Like, you will find a way to mess it up because it's just the way it works. Everything's going wonderfully, you get onto the roof and something just doesn't work right and you fail.
That's it.
So instead, I'm taking this a little slow and I'm probably going to be getting out onto the roof and getting on his vehicle.
There you are.
Because there are moments in this game where it seems like you're waiting for a spawn to happen that never happens. But there we go, we got across. I John Connor him, and then we can continue onwards. And the game just doesn't seem to know what it's doing, so I decide to go back towards the enemy that I skipped, because I think it wants us to get rid of him to trigger the next part. But the game auto-corrects here, and then it tells us to go, so that's okay. But all we have to do now is go to the Omnibus Factory. And I do think that the Omnibus Factory was one of the most interesting quests on this game, because it introduced a character who played us, and it also introduced a little bit of just a dispute. You know, there was some kind of thing happening, and there's not enough of that. There wasn't enough friction in the story for me. There wasn't enough just occasions where you were put in peril or danger and your character came into question. There just wasn't enough of it. So in this particular instance, I really enjoyed Jacob's betrayal when that woman turned out to be related to Starrick, and I liked the fact that he couldn't see it as business. He was just absolute in his outlook. It was, we worked together, we could have had something beautiful, and you betrayed me. And then he kills her. And I like that, because I like the conflict, and there's not enough. Like, the story just, it flip-flops so much. It begins really interesting, and it's got a lot of valid things happening, and then there's this disconnect between Evie and Jacob that culminates in the end of the game feeling really rushed, because they fall out with each other so much so that you don't want to work together, but it doesn't really get padded out unless probably you do side missions, and if you haven't done any of the side missions, you don't see any of this conflict building. So it goes 0 to 60 in no time at all, and it really doesn't feel like there's been enough tension between the siblings. And I find that shitty, really shitty, because I love a good story, and I love a good story that isn't perfect. Nobody wants to see beautiful people doing things perfectly and having no hassle at all. Nobody wants to watch the hero have no nemesis and just win all the time, because it's boring. It's really boring. You know, it's one of the reasons why certain animes can only go for so long until the creator decides to kill it. How many times can Goku come up against somebody who's even stronger than him in a completely arbitrary way and then find a melodramatic way to win? Because you know he's going to. He can only do it so many times, and that's what made Dragon Ball Z so great, the fact that it went for a decent amount of time and they ended it. And sometimes it goes on for too long. Like, look at Fist of the North Star, the actual manga. I love that manga, but I will be the first one to tell you that it is literally every single episode is the same. Ken goes into some village, someone is in distress, there is a big strong dude who seems really, really strong for about 10 seconds, and then Ken kills him. And that's the story, every single time. And I love reading it. I'm hook, line and sinker, because I'm hoping there might be something different, but I acknowledge that it is intrinsically the same story every single time. And it did eventually stop, and then he created, you know, Fist of the Blue Sky, which is the same thing, just in Shanghai. And I love that too, and it's the same formula. It's the most formulaic thing since, like, Criminal Minds, or NCIS Terracotta, as I call it. Like, it's procedural in its ambition, and it works because it's a serialized thing, and that's how it works, and that's why it's good. But from a narrative perspective, if that was a book, you have to do different things to keep people in there, or you're just gonna get the only people reading them are the ones reading out of habit. And it's the same thing with people like Patterson, who's got this Alex Cross series that's got like 20 fucking books, and at this point he's had like 9 wives, 9 kids, 9 different careers, and is essentially an astrophysicist as well as everything else that he does fantastically well, looking like a young Muhammad Ali, yet being played by Morgan Freeman in the film, who looks like an old and nothing like Muhammad Ali. But you get what I mean, you know, this procedural thing. Stories are at their finest when they get you to empathise with a character or characters, and then they put them through the meat grinder. And then when you expect it to get better, it gets worse. Or when you expect it to get worse, it gets better. You want to be deceived. It's the art of self-deception. It's the reason why we choose to escape in forms of media. And when it surprises us and it takes us away we didn't think it would go, is always when it's at its most enjoyable. And these games have such a strong narrative going through them that there's plenty of opportunities to make these characters, to flesh these characters out, and to put them in a world that's worth visiting. But they never do. They never do. And it makes me angry. It makes me really passionate because I wish they would do better. I wish they would try harder. But, you know, who am I? I'm just some dude on the internet who plays games and helps people beat them on harder difficulties and things. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.